Hey, welcome back to Made of Wires, where we're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night, looking at the Grant Ralph Sifa boss fight. You can go to soten.z.dev to learn more about this project. I'm a contributor. I like decompiling. I like chatting with people about decompilation and Symphony of the Night, other things related to retro gaming. So welcome. We were working on, like I said, the Grant Sifa Ralph boss fight. I did a bunch of work deduplicating most everything, getting assets set up. And along the way, and maybe if you watched the stream before, you may or may not have noticed that assets all of a sudden was taking a considerable amount of time, and I wasn't sure why. And so I looked into it, and it had to do with how enums are interpreted. And I don't know if additional configuration was added. Something has changed recently to cause the asset portion of the build to grow. And on my machine, it was about 10 seconds it took, which is a long time when the whole build takes about 30 seconds. So anything that can reduce a third of the build time is, I think, a valuable change. And so I looked into it, and what did I find? Like I said, it was enum related. Let's look at that a little bit here. I'm going to comment out the important part of my change, which is adding some caching, and we'll run this. This is just the let me get rid of all this. We don't have to worry about the profiler. This is just extracting assets. And why are we printing? Excuse that. We'll run it again, and we'll get a time output from the time command. And that took 9.47 seconds. And also during that almost 10 seconds, I have 8 cores. It was using 850% of those cores. Hey, roaming. So for that period of time, basically the machine is completely pegged. So like I said, I looked into where this was, and let's run that one more time, and I will run it with the rest of that. So I like I like performance. I like looking at how to optimize things. And this was a pretty straightforward thing to find, but I'll talk about how I go about it. And one of the more useful things in the last 15 years or so that I found. Why isn't this loading? So I'm going to the wrong port. That's why. Are flame graphs. And I find them generally pretty easy to understand. I don't mind call stacks, usually inverted call stacks, but this gives you most of the information. So Go makes it relatively easy to add a profiler and then do some work. And so we want to see where is the most time being taken. And so we see this error group. This is what's used for parallelization in Soten assets. Something related to each asset entry. Yeah, we got to do that. And then we get here, and we start seeing these long lines, and basically everything above it is how long the dependent operation took. And so usually it's not one of these bottom long layers, it's the things above it. And so read entity layout, okay. Read entity layout, let's keep going and find the next, the longest line before it gets broken up, and we get fetch enum with min. That's broken up into a couple different things: a text scanner, parse CEnum, which is a considerable amount of that time, fetching the command output, the string index command. Oops, I need to reset it here. And so this is where I thought I will look. And actually, I've been in this code before, and I've seen it before. So I did what you do, which is dig in. And I've added caching here, so the solution is already there. But basically, what this fetch enum with min function does is calls CPP on a header file, and then there's some code above for parsing that header file. And there were some optimizations that could be done in that parse. It's string operations. When you run a C file through CPP and get the output, it's surprising the amount of stuff. Every include, everything like that is put into one long stream. And so even a simple hello world type C file becomes thousands and thousands of lines. And so anything that's processing all of that output needs to be relatively efficient. So we want the parse CEnum string parsing to be efficient, but also forking to call CPP. That was taking about a quarter of the time as well. So all of this can be improved, and it was pretty simple. Just add some caching, so a dictionary, some locking to make sure that we're not mutating the dictionary while there's readers. And it actually does an optimistic lock, and so it's possible that this could be done twice for a single header file, but in practice, what's happening is each of the stage header files is being read, and those stage header files are usually read through some procedural serial process, and so there's typically not conflicts. So there was about 4,000 or so instances where the enum was being parsed over and over and over again. This drops that to unique parses of about 35, and then caches everything else. So that's like 99% of the requests are cache hits, which is nice. So we run that again, and now it runs in 1.19 seconds instead of 9 point whatever seconds it was running before. That one was even faster, 0.6 seconds. And if we go back to that flame graph then, where we had our huge section here, we'll focus on this extract. When we refresh and load it again, that's not even visible. So what do we have left? It's things related to PNG writing and other things like that, and you can't even find anything related to the CEnums. So pretty sweet. So I'm going to get that in, and post a CR for that later on today. I'm going to commit that. And I'll write the rest of that later. I'm going to make sure that I have everything that I want in here. Doing that. I don't need any of this. Apparently I didn't run Go format properly last time. I made a change here. So I have all my 2Ms or 1M, I can't remember. 1M, of course. And we'll get back to Rabio. Oh. which will require building everything. And fortunately, we got the benefit of having run Soten assets already, so we don't have to run it again. This is part of the extraction process. This that phase of Soten assets replaces a lot of the Splat plugins that we previously used, so it pulls out things and writes a bunch of the data as header files or even C files in some cases, so that we don't have to write data. Some of that, I think, we're going to need to figure out maybe a slightly different way to do it, because we can't. I don't think I would feel comfortable necessarily distributing those files. And so if you wanted to do a portable build, you don't want to have to ship a compiler as well. So fortunately, we have it in a form where the data is accessible. And so maybe we could dump that as other types of data. All right, so we're building. Before we had a single unknown file. I did a bunch of work, split this. This is much longer. It was maybe a dozen or so entries. Now it's several dozen. We had one single file before. Now there's, I've split this into 4. It probably is going to end up being more. Actually, I split into 6. Boss torch, boss doors came out of that. There's single function files. There's probably going to be a bunch of these that end up being additional files. I'm going to find the one that I was working on. And I don't remember where this ended up, but most of the data is split. We have a bunch of assets, things that are generated like gen sprites, gen rooms. And the problem that we had yesterday was this function is working fine and compiling and matching on the PlayStation, but it's not matching on the PSP. And my suspicion is that there may be other functions that are static and related to the function that we were working on. So I wanted to look into that. So our function is the bottom. So these others may or may not be called. Let's look to see if there's references. Yeah, so this 6F4 function is called 4394 is not, and 4338 is. So it's likely that these are static functions within this file, and because of that, if they're static, they may affect how MetroWorks allocates registers. So I want to start going through each of these, and then we can come back and try to integrate them all. So let's look at which one of these is the smallest, and I think we'll start there. There was another small change that I had. Header files for bosses weren't working correctly because it was assuming that the header file was going to be in the stage directory structure. And so that's fixed as well. So this 4338 is a very small function. We'll start with that one. And I need to look as well at what the equivalent on the PSP is going to be. Drat. I need to... 1 second to fix my SSH tunnel. All right, sorry about that. That worked now. All right, so, oh. I am a human. Today. Oh, something new has been added. But what? Android x86 maybe? So the other thing that this tells us is it's likely that I'm going to assume that this is an entity, but I'm not sure. We're going to guess. It tells us approximately where the split is as well. That looks pretty good. So we should look at the PSP version and may want to split it at the same place if it's not already. So this is going to be source boss RBO PSP. And it's not. So we'll need two splits in this file. And this is our PSP equivalent function here. So we can open that and get that one ready. And we'll start over here. We're already at 70%. Let's see if we can get through it quickly. I'm going to call temp A1. We'll call that pos Y. Yeah, that's fine. And we'll call this pos X. No, we'll call it offset Y. And let's see where our issues are. Pos Y is used. The current entity Y may be used twice. What I think I might do, let's see if this changes anything if I reuse it down here. It doesn't. The PSP version is going to tell us if that's read twice, so actually I'm going to start a new scratch with the PSP version. And I have to retrain my brain. I don't know why new ones aren't added at the end. Oh, interesting. It looks like oh, this might not... This was not the same function at all. Okay, so we're going to delete this. I did the wrong thing. So I assumed that it was going to be the function 3 before. Would have been this 220, but it was not. So let's look at where this function is called, which is down around line 275. Those have diverged slightly. And then we can look at what the original symbol was and get the function from there. Oh, what? No, that's not what I thought. And this is not in this file. Because I'm doing the wrong thing. Wrong symbol. Still not in this file. It's in an earlier file, and so that means it's likely that this is split as well. When the functions are out of order, it usually means they were in separate files, and we think that they were sorted alphabetically when compiled for PSP, but we don't know that for sure. So let's find this one. And try again. So M2C couldn't figure out the args for this either. Seemed like an entity. Things were lining up that way, so I'm going to go with entity. And the structure is a little bit different. I think that this is going to be a greater than 0 and then return. The compiler managed comment I haven't seen before. We're not going to use SP10 at all. Pointer. Call this one pos x. Why is it assigned 16 pointer? Get rid of both instances of SP10. We'll call this one pos y. Make both of these sine 32s. Still not super accurate. Let's see, how many... Looks like we probably have maybe only one variable. Let's throw cos x back here. Some of the ordering is off, so let's do this in a couple phases and see if we can get the ordering right. Saw the EO earlier. It's way down here, so that's not happening till much later. So we are reading pos x relatively early on. Let's see if the ordering matters here. We are taking a reference to it. Okay. That doesn't make much sense to me. Oh, the reason it doesn't make any sense is because it's not an entity. So what's being passed in is more likely a sine 16 array or a sine 16 pointer. We'll just call it offsets. And let's see if we can get away without a second variable. We might need one. Let's try that. So I was terribly wrong about the signature. That's okay. It happens. This looks slightly better. So I'm trying to match this first set of instructions here. We have too much on the stack here, which To me, that looks like it's just dereferencing. But it doesn't look like that order is correct. That order is better. This is a little strange too. We're adding... Oh, it's a... What is it? Are we loading and incrementing? Something like pause y equals load word. All right, that gets us the store word back. Okay, so we are incrementing. It could be here and we're dereferencing inline. That's the wrong order. Let's see if we can force the order and keep it. No, that word is wrong too. So let's do it this way. Hey, Wumpty Dumpty Dom Center. Good to have you. All right, so we have these first ones that all look correct. Then we have a branch greater than 0. But we're getting less than equals, so let's switch that around. That's a bummer. I would have liked it to be the other way, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. Let's compile that again. And that looks like a match. Maybe, not quite. So we have something slightly out of order. It looks like this isn't in line like looks like this is probably just a continuation. And let's see if we can get this last one in there too. I don't know if that's going to work out. Yeah, not quite. But this does match. The tell is where we're writing to S0, and so we have to make sure that it does get written back to a register. What if we put the ++ here? Is that going to work? It doesn't. Too bad. Alright, so this should be fine on the PlayStation as well. And we can't make it static because this function doesn't even exist in the same file on the PSP. Worked fine on the PSP. And now we're going to go right on the PlayStation. And we have the wrong function name. So normally I'd want to make this static, which limits the visibility to just this file, which enables other optimizations, but we can't do that. So we have one done. Let's see what else we have in here. The next shortest one is the 6F4 function. And 6F4 is also referenced no, yeah, it is. So that's in there as well. So we'll look for what that PSP function name was. This is 360. Which is the function immediately before, just like in the PlayStation file. My guess is that this function references the CA38 function, but I'm not positive. So we'll start with the PSP version, since that's going to be the way everything's preset here. And again, we don't necessarily know what the args are, if any. A pretty good starting spot. No function declarations. Facing left is always used as a Boolean. I should say typically used as a Boolean, but in this case it's not. Let's make a facing left variable. And the reason I think that this is a variable is because the result of get side to player gets stored in an S register, and that usually means it's going into a variable. And the and is part of the assignment. So it looks like we mostly just have one too many variables here. That should be easy to get rid of because gplayer status is probably just referenced directly. Oh, it's not. That's not. So temp S0 we're going to rename to status. RS1, that looks like it could be our return value. But maybe not that either. It looks like it's going to be reused for facing left, which now is a bad name for this variable. So wrong register. It's facing left. Let's undo all of those. Status and facing left are what's shared. And there we go. So facing left is a bad name, and I'll have to get rid of that. We'll call var s1, we'll just call it ret. And facing left, we'll call temp. I guess we could call it status. And this function, I believe, can be static. What did I do? And I'm not even going to try this on the... Take it to the PSP. I'm going to assume... Or, sorry, the PlayStation. I'm going to assume that this is correct. Because it's pretty straightforward. Let's build here. I'm not sure if I can make this static before decompiling. That looks like I can. So that's fine. And here we're going to... the function is 6F4. I don't think I can make it static with GCC, but we'll try it there too. Make sure it works first, and then see if we can make it static. That worked too. Okay, and then there's one more function here. A little bigger. Nope, not 7A8. Oh, 7A8 is the big one. It's the 394. So a jump table here. Let's see if this other function looks like it could be part of this as well. Into C220. We don't have a jump table on this one. We have a destroy entity call early on. No, not a similar function here. Do we have any destroy entity reference? We don't. So I don't think that this is the same. We have a create entity from current entity, and we know that entity ID is 1B. Don't necessarily know that the entity ID will be used. And it looks like it's not. Maybe here. Nope, we know it's not that function. So let's go figure out what global is the equivalent of 1B. I can type. It's this guy here. In the PlayStation, they use globals instead of constants. So it makes it a little harder to find. Hey, Chronic. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Any VOD watching is definitely helpful. Let's look at non-matchings. What's this function here? Rat. I loaded it in the wrong place. I wanted it here. Okay, so let me get this one back. There we go. So we should have initialize entity and create entity pretty early on in the function, and we do. So I think that these are most likely a match. And let's see where this one is. It's not in this file. So this is another split. It's also in 250. So these aren't split then. So this is actually possibly where these should be. Because they maintain that order across two different versions of the game. Might be a coincidence, but that's what I'm gonna go with. So let's start with the PSP version, and we'll see how that goes. Again, we don't know necessarily what this looks like. An entity update function, though. I was gonna say we don't necessarily know what the signature is, but it does look like an entity update function. And I am gonna use the PlayStation version because there is some there's not too many globals actually. Oh, we could use this one. I don't think there's an insurmountable number of symbols to overcome. These two symbols here look like they're probably from the entities table. Get rid of this. We could see if we could tell where this is. I'm gonna have to do some math. Take this offset. Actually, this is the address, a VRAM address. And then, because I can never remember, we're gonna look for the G entities address. And we're gonna subtract that. And then divide everything by BC, and that gets us offset 50. 50 hex, sorry, which is offset 80. Is there anything special about offset 80? Let's look for the player macro. Stage entity start is at 64, so this isn't necessarily a well-known offset. So it is what it is. It is part of G entities. Offset 80. We have this other one up here. I'm not sure what that is yet. We'll come back to it. Nor do I know what this is, but they haven't given names. These are also part of the G entities table. They may be references. No, it looks like they're G entities. So I'm going to get rid of those as well. I'm going to throw values that I know are wrong here. And then we'll try to figure out what it is once we get things compiling. There was a fair number of... Oh, these are just the entity IDs. There's a lot of them here. It looks like this might be like the main controller for the boss fight. So we need a few other things. These are going to be references to this particular entity. Interesting. Offset 96 is known as a symbol. So it looks like these are probably fixed. So my guess is that this is 88 based on that. That each character gets 8 entities surrounding it. So this probably is each of the bosses. Ralph, Grant, Sifa. That's my guess. And we could create a macro for those if it is known that they're at those locations. What does it not like about this? Not an L value. How is that one any less of an L value than any of the others? I guess it doesn't think those are L values either. What's wrong with casting it as a Sign 16? Well, something else is going on. Oh. It's the reference. I see. Any work on Windows Linux builds yet? No. We do a portable build, which makes sure that anything that we're decompiling can compile on modern compilers. But it's not necessarily it ensures that modern Clang and GCC can compile it, which will make it possible to run later on when people get to porting it. This is interesting. So Spim decided that this was a jump table based on the way that it looked, but it looks not to be a jump table. So we have this identifier. We don't know what it is. It's going to be some global. I'm gonna start a PlayStation scratch because I doubt we have the same error on the PlayStation. And that'll help identify what might be going on there. I think it's a pretty good start, though. Yeah, it's odd. That looks like it's just this GAPI function call. I'm not sure why it came through so strangely. Nope, that's a different one. Where was the JTable? Yeah, it was that. Okay. Bizarre. Okay, so we do have some of the entity IDs that we have to worry about. Looks like these might all be entity IDs, which is actually kind of a positive development. Not this one, Drat. Not all entity IDs. Not this one. Not that one. Okay, let's fix these up. Chronic was saying that a Windows version of Super Mario World Decomp, which binds. Yeah, there was some news. Was it early in the week or was it last week about a PlayStation 2 recompiler or something to that effect? And when I was first looking at it, that looked very similar, where what it was doing was finding function boundaries and other things like that. That's non-trivial, and it's an important thing. And we rely largely on SPIM to do that. But then instead of trying to decompile, it was creating functions that effectively were the same, were just machine code instructions as functions, which again is also a valuable thing. But then you're effectively running a virtual machine, and that isn't quite as valuable. And what it allows you to do is, I guess, not just in time, but go through and then rewrite functions. So you get something that runs immediately or relatively quickly on a target machine, and then you can come back through and work on individual functions. Just kind of an odd... it was getting a lot of attention for something that I don't think was what people were suggesting that it actually was. Very cool project. Just didn't seem like most people could get some value out of it. So we have a bunch of extra variables, trying to go through and get those taken care of. I'm going to assume that this is a timer, and usually those are signed. So this is a pretty standard. Oops, I can't subtract. Why am I doing that with my left hand? Pretty standard decrement and check. Oh, that's how the N64 recompiler works? I haven't looked into that either. Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's a bad approach. I just don't think it is the same as what most people would think. At least not how I would imagine it. But I think weird, so maybe nothing's the way other people would imagine it when I'm thinking about it. So we have the same decrement check here. So it looks like we're storing this reference, which would make a lot of sense. And then using the variable. Probably doing that again and again. Hey, Eldritch. This is, it looks like to me, the initialization entity for the Grant Ralph Sifa boss fight, I think. The clock tower stuff was getting to be just duplicates, and so I switched over to this earlier this week. The coffin bit, that's right. There's a bunch of stuff in here that was mismatched, and so we'll have to figure out what those things are. Actually, since you're on the horn, my impression was that there was a debug option which would display either the entity ID or something else, like in a bounding box for the sprite. Am I imagining that? Am I dreaming it? Oh, Mott did make something like that, okay. Flea Rider. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember when I did it. I thought I did it on stream. I agree. I'll have to go back and check those then and see if I can find where that was. I couldn't remember what the context was of using it, so I think this is done. The only thing I don't know from this, so there's a couple things that we're going to have to deal with the PSP, which is actually, or sorry, the PlayStation. It's going to give us the values for some of these, and then we're going to have different symbols. But we'll take this and these are all entity IDs, and so they show up different. But my guess is that this is Grant, Ralph, and Sifa. Maybe not. Oh no, yes, that's what it is. I got the wrong value here. So we probably can label those. Enemy def and enemy edit. Thank you. Let me open those up. Not finding it, but Soten scripts. There we go. No, not something scripts. Yeah, there's certain things, yeah, especially during enemy attacks and things like that, where the entities are dynamically spawned, that that this would help with. Okay, well, I'll take a look through his repo. Sorry for this side channel. So what I want to do is make sure that this line 28 is loading the right offset, and it was. So yeah, I just kind of guessed based on this last one being 96 and the first one being 80 that the other one would be right in the middle. It looks like it was. So I'm going to switch these out for the PlayStation symbols. It's nice that we have PSP symbols, but all symbols eventually go away, and usually we prefer the PlayStation ones. Not always, but usually. Well, tell him to get on that. I'm kidding. I could ping him later. For whatever reason, I've had an aversion to logging into Discord, and I've not been on it for a while. All right, let's see if this works. We get all of these. Let's see if we got fix the name. I don't think I'll need these. I'm guessing that they're going to come from game.h or stage.h, so I'm going to throw them in my context. And so I'll just need those other globals. And we'll see if this one works. It does not. Let me init interactable is undeclared. Let's declare it. And that worked. So do we have everything around? So whatever this long function was, we have all of the supporting functions around it. So let me try this. It's the 6F4 function. Let's go here. That probably is static. And we can see now if that makes a difference. Because we couldn't get this other one to match on the PSP, but if we throw the static version of this in, is that going to change how this compiles? So I'm going to throw this at the top. That's not what I wanted. And then we'll see what the result is. So we're going to get a bunch of additional stuff at the top that is unrelated, and we just have to ignore that. And we know that that's not part of our function. what we got is some additional stack variables that we didn't have before. And if we make this not static, so this actually, oh, I see. It's just splitting these. Ignore what I said. So we're going to make it static. It did not impact these registers at all. So it's not related to that, which is a bummer. So we still have the mystery of what's causing this to not match on the PSP, and why these registers are off. And so that mystery is going to remain for the time being. It may be something simple, like these being knots instead of checks against 0. It may be something more complicated that we have to figure out at some point, but it's not obvious at this time what that's going to be. So we'll have to come back to that another day. And unfortunately, until we get it working on the PSP as well, we don't have a way to consolidate the files between the two versions of the game. And that's really kind of the goal. Will the project ever hit 100%? Are there areas that are not possible because of compilers? So far, everything has been solvable eventually. There's some weird cases, especially in the PlayStation SDK code, and I almost wonder, well, I shouldn't say that. There's only one function that's used that didn't match, or that hasn't been matched yet for the PlayStation SDK, and those are the hardest functions to get matches for, because one, they're written by other people outside of the rest of the game code, and they're usually written very tersely and not like you normally think of writing in a modern way. Sometimes they deal with hardware and have to go directly to addresses, and so they're just odd. Those are the hardest ones. There's also one function in the stage selection stage that is unused, and because it's unused, it gets pruned from the PSP build, and so unless we can find it, it possibly exists in the Xbox 360 build. I haven't looked there. Unless we can find it somewhere else, it's long, and there's just something odd about it that we haven't been able to figure out. Everything else, though, we've eventually been able to come to a solution to, so I do think 100% is possible. Will it happen soon? Last year I would have said everything would have been done in about a year. I actually think we're still a year away. That probably is the truth. We're always a year away. But that's it. I gotta go pick up kids from school. So I'll catch y'all later. We'll be working more on this next week. Adios.